You selected visioning as a topic that you really enjoy. What is it about that that came alive for you?
Well, I guess I'm influenced by what I learned from Stephen Covey, which is to begin with the end in mind. That unless we know where we're going, it's kind of hard to plan the trip. And so the vision for me creates a container for living a compassionate life, a life of leadership, because it gives us much more than a goal, but it gives us a destination. A destination that we probably will never get to. I mean, a vision for me is so much bigger than my own lifetime. It's a vision of the world that I want to see manifest, the best that humankind can offer. And when I contact that vision within myself, I find it really motivating and also reassuring. There's something about knowing that this is a bigger project than just my lifetime, that I'm playing my part in creating a world of sustainability and compassion for my ancestors, the people that will come after me, and that I'm actually in the middle of a situation, picking up on the work of many, many others who have come before us for the last thousands of years of human history. So to be a part of that flow is really reassuring, and for me, it's about motivation. The vision provides a fuel source that gets me up in the morning because I really want to contribute to creating that world.
So you're seeing yourself as part of a historical pattern that started with your ancestors, and now you're part of it, and that you're providing this for your progeny, for the people that come after us, for the vision for this planet.
Yeah, that we're in the middle of a really exciting process of evolution of human consciousness, and that the decisions that we make today as a species will determine what it's going to be like for the children of our children's children's children. And so that's why the work that we're doing now is so important. And I really want to protect what we have built and to use that as a foundation for what can come beyond. There's something happening that we can't even imagine the world as it will be in maybe even a generation or two. That there's this geometric non-linear progression happening where we know that knowledge has been doubling right now it's about every 2 years that the amount of information available to us is doubling at that rate. Maybe it's even faster than that now. And what I'm excited about with compassionate leadership and things like it is that this is a way that we can begin to multiply the power of our wisdom. That knowledge alone is not enough, that we also need a quality of wisdom and compassion. These other two wings that balance the head so that our hearts can also fly, and that whole package allows the ground to be tilled for what will come. So when you get to start talking about visions, words start getting hard. It becomes much more ineffable. But I just feel really excited about the power of visioning, of just dreaming without any kind of censoring or filters of what is truly possible, that we often as a species have held ourselves back by thinking we can't, or it's too big, or we can't do it. But that's not what got the pyramids built. It's not what got us to the moon and so forth. It's dreaming big that really sets the table for what's really possible for our species and our planet.
So, Jim, I'm wondering if you would get a little bit more specific about that, because you have said that the decisions we make today really impact the way that the world can be, and you even referred to it as what is the best that humankind can offer. Can you get a little bit more specific about what's in your vision?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for asking. For me, the one way of looking at the vision is the world that I'd like to live in. And in the world that I want to live in, it's characterized by an open heart. And what I mean by an open heart is that human beings approach one another with a sense of mutual knowledge of our interdependence. That in the world that I want to live in, and to the best of my ability, the world that I'm living in now, I recognize that the choices that I make not only affect me, but they also affect my family. Not only do they affect my family, but they affect my community. Not only do they affect my community, they affect my country. Not only do they affect my country, therefore then they affect the whole world. So if I make a decision to do something, and I have that framework in mind, that the decision that I'm making right now will affect not only my life, but the lives of potentially everybody. So here's one specific example, is when we moved to Hawaii, we decided that part of the reason we moved here was to see what it would be like to be sustainable. That Hawaii offered the opportunity to really play with the ideas of sustainability because of the blessings we have here in terms of the weather. So we started growing our own food, and we're nowhere near completely sustainable ourselves. In other words, we'll never be able to grow all of our own food, but we grow enough food now for ourselves to make a dent in our grocery bill and have extras to give away to friends. And then they also have extra that they give to us. And so we're beginning to take more responsibility for our food security. Another specific example is we decided to use some of our money to invest in solar energy. So we put 10 solar panels on our roof, and even though we may never really reap any economic benefit, it might be 10 years before it pays for itself or whatever, it still feels really good to know that we took a step that is freeing Hawaii from reliance on petroleum to create electricity. All the electricity in Maui that isn't produced by the sun or by wind comes from the oil that was in the ground, probably in the Mideast or Canada or some other place. It has to be shipped over here on a boat. And so when we make the decision to put solar electricity on our roof, that has an impact on that whole system. And as more and more people do that, we can move towards sustainability. And then it winds down to even the specific decisions we make from moment to moment about things like livelihood or even how we handle conflict. My vision helps me to remember the importance of reconnection, even in the midst of conflict, hopefully. But as soon as conflict ends, to realize that I have this dream of staying connected to my wife, to my children, to my neighbors, and so forth. That's the world I want to live in. So it gives me a measurement tool to know where I am in the moment. Does that make sense, Faye?
Yeah, I think it does. You've mentioned two things. One is about what you do, whether it's small or large, in terms of conservation of resources, will have an impact. Even little steps that you may take that you may not realize right now, but it will impact the world later. And then the second thing you mentioned has to do with the interdependence of how you want to live in a world of an open heart. And you characterize that by one thing that you mentioned, which was connection and how you handle conflict. Remembering that what you want to have in the world with your relationships has to do with connection. Would you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really great kind of example of inhabiting the world that I want to live in. I have learned in my career as a mediator, I've been mediating for about 20 years now, and one of the startling lessons of entering the world of conflict resolution was to realize how normal conflict is. I think in my younger days, I had an idea that it would be possible to live in a world where there was no conflict, that peace was actually possible. And I've evolved that idea to now realize that peaceful conflict resolution is possible, and that's what peace actually looks like. Peace is people working together with their conflicts, that they can connect even in the midst of conflict, and utilize conflict as another fuel source, that the despair that's generated by conflict, that the awareness that we have of our unmet needs that comes up in conflict actually can become another fuel source to create the world that we want to live in. So, for example, if Jory, my wife, and I have some kind of a conflict, one of us wakes up to the fact that we're in conflict, then we can begin to facilitate a conversation that is focused on connection. And then the inevitable result of focusing on connection is more understanding between the two of us about what we're needing, about the things that are valuable to us. And we can gradually, gently release any attachment we have to a particular strategy and focus on the needs that are on the table, and then use the creativity that both of us have in our heart to evolve some new strategy that includes both of our needs, so that we can find a new way to be in the world that has more opportunity to meet needs at less cost. And so the conflict itself becomes the opportunity to take a little baby step forward into creating the world that I want to live in. So every conflict becomes this opportunity to grow together as a couple and to grow within ourselves individually, so that we can continue to impel ourselves towards a new kind of conflict that'll be different than the last one. And so it becomes a self-perpetuating and sustainable system where we continue to accumulate wisdom based on a compassionate response to the conflict.
I like your term, Jim, of peaceful conflict. And if we look at conflict as a way to connect and to grow, that it's not so scary.
Yeah. Fear is actually the enemy of compassion. And when we're scared of what is, then we actually lose access to the very resources required to impel us towards more safety. And so for me, the first step is just to notice the fear. That fear is deep in us, and it's there for a reason. And so it's not that I'm trying to diss the fear, but rather to transform the fear into something more life-serving. So if I'm involved in a conversation with you or with Jory or with somebody else, and I start to get scared, I want to train myself to notice that fear and let it become like a bell of mindfulness to bring my attention to my heart. What's important to me? What am I trying to protect? And that will inevitably take me to the level of values and needs. Okay, so now I see what I'm needing underneath the safety is I'm really, really longing for a sense of love and connection and belonging together. So when I settle into that and lean into the energy of love, lean into the energy of connection, and open my heart to how important that is for me, then it helps me to realize that's probably important for her too, or important to the other person too. So now that we're connected at this mutual valuing,
a common arena you've gotten to.
It's a common bridge. Now, how are we going to walk across this bridge together so that you can have your sense of love and community and connection and belonging met without it costing me anything? So we get a chance to find out what new thing we can try that might meet more needs at less cost.
Without it costing each other anything.
Yeah, or less and less anyway. I mean, I don't think that there's anything like a perfect strategy. What my goal is to make a new mistake next time rather than the same old mistake over and over again.
At the beginning of this interview, you mentioned leadership, and that it implied to me that you're recommending that we all share some form of leadership toward this new vision of humankind offering the best that we can be. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, thanks, Faye. It's the only hope, as far as I can tell, is that if everyone on the planet takes 100% responsibility for leading their own life, and what specifically I mean by that is that we take responsibility for meeting our own needs, and that we also take 100% responsibility for contributing to the well-being of one another. And so this requires a quality of leadership. I want to lead with an awareness of what's most important, that this level of universal human needs answers that question. Why are we doing whatever we're doing? Which in whatever direction we're leading, that it is in the service of these very important fundamental energies that sustain life and allow life to thrive. And so that's what leadership means to me, is taking 100% responsibility for meeting my own needs and 100% responsibility for contributing to the needs of the people that are important to me, and even to the people that I've never even met. That I want to take, when I decided to lead by putting solar panels on my roof, there's a part of me that is hopeful that strategy will actually contribute to not only my own family, but to everybody in Maui, because we're going to be less reliant on, just a teeny tiny little bit less reliant on external energy sources, and that even impacts everybody else on the planet. Maybe it's as a model, or that energy that could be used better in another way. And so the decisions that I make in my own life, the way that I choose to lead my own life, makes a difference for the whole planet. That's a lot of what 100% responsibility means to me, is to realize that every decision I make has an impact not only on my life, but on everybody else's life. And I want to do a better and better job of aligning the decisions that I make with the values that I hold.